All right, we're live. Yay!
There we go. And we got Stephanie back. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the M.O.R.E podcast, Moms of Real Estate. Today, we get to hang out with Liz Faircloth, which I'm excited about. I know we all are super excited about this. So,
yeah, I'm so excited to be here with you all wonderful ladies.
Yeah. So, Becca, you want to do the normal take it away and quiz us all on what's going on?
We'll just give an update of where we're at. So for me, I think the last time we met, I was talking about hiring. I was in the process of hiring. We've got some growth going on in seven-figure flipping, and finally found my person. She's been with us, and now it's funny when you find a good fit. She's only been with us a week and a half. It feels like forever. So that's just knock on wood. Things I feel this way 6 months from now, but I think that speaks to like the due diligence on the front end of really knowing exactly what you want and holding out for it. So that's going great. We have our multifamily live event, which is I'm sad Peely's not here to talk about it. That's coming up June 10th and 12th. So that's not really my department, but that's like all the buzz happening in our work world. And my husband runs a space company. He's a co-founder of a small satellite propulsion company, and there's some good things happening in their world, which that's all I can share, but lots of good stuff happening there. And my kids are great, and it's spring. So it's funny because we talk about how would you rate your days, how are you feeling mental space wise. On Tuesday, after having a day of just back-to-back meetings, at 5 p.m. if you would have asked me, I would say like I'm at a 4, maybe a 4.5 out of 10. But then I had such a good evening that I was laying on the couch and I thought, whoa, I can't believe redemption happened. Today ended up being a 10 out of 10. So pretty good. I'd say overall like 8 to 9.
Something happened on that couch. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just sat on the couch.
I wish that was it. It was my kids. Somebody gave my kids roller skates. And it was like Christmas morning that whole night. It was beautiful weather and they were outside roller skating and they were like holding on to each other's hands and helping each other. And it was just the most precious evening ever. So.
Aww. Now you got to level it up and skate in the house. That's what we do. We have skating parties where we skate around the circles in the house. That's
I'll send my kids to your house.
Love it.
So take it away, Stephanie. Where are you at?
Okay. All right. I'm in a really good place. I've had a lot of like really good personal things happen lately. Like we finally closed our loan on our new construction home. So I'm not going to actually move into this thing until probably Christmas. But, getting a loan and being a business owner is just such a pain in the butt. So it was just such a long process going through like the loan qualification stuff and the paperwork and like the blood samples. It feels like it's finally closed and that it's ours, like that we own the land and the whole thing is starting. And I'm so excited about it. Like just so excited to be building our house. And I know we talked about that like a while ago, but I'm impossible. Like I basically hate houses now. I'm like, no, I don't like when you work. No, I don't like this. So I'm impossible. So I'm excited to build and then have it exactly the way I want it, So I'm excited about that. And I ordered a Peloton and it got delivered today. I was showing you girls before, which I got my shoes. I'm like so pumped. I'm gonna do the Greatest Showman ride tonight. So there's a whole ride just like the Showman soundtrack. So I'm so excited to celebrate the day with that. Yes. I'll send you a picture, Becca. I know you like it.
I want a video.
I know. All right. And then professional wise, things are going really good with our companies. Like we're seeing growth kind of like throughout everything, especially with Left Main. Left Main is just really, really going well. I'm just so excited about it. I'm so proud of it. Our real estate company is doing really well too. New construction homes that are selling. People are loving it. A little bit harder to get off market deals right now, but we're still plunging through. Definitely have a little bit more roadblocks with getting good deals on properties. Homeowners are just like the inventory is so low in Charlotte that people don't feel that same urgency. They kind of know they can list it or whatever, and it'll sell really fast. So we've had to step up our game a little bit, but we're still doing good. and marketing world is good too. So I'm all in all, I'm in a really good place. I'm really excited. Got some syndication deals going on with apartments. We did that one with Peely. I'm doing another one with Ariane. And I just look, a lot of good stuff is happening. I'm happy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, more
Yeah,
syndication. That's fun.
More syndications? Well, Liz can tell us a little bit about that.
Liz, let's do more.
What's that?
I said, let's do some.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. We got, my husband's down in Kentucky. He's having the fun this week. He's like, last night we went to a bar that had arcades and I won Miss Pac-Man. I'm like, I'm so glad you're working so hard. And I'm home with our kids, but you go work hard at the arcade area in Kentucky, drinking your bourbon. But anyway, but yeah, we're looking at we have a project we just, we're under due diligence of. It's a 150 unit in Lexington is where we have our properties. I know Peely has stuff in Louisville. We have stuff in Lexington. So do you want me to share, Becca? Is that my cue
I'm going to let Melissa go.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought that was like a segue.
Come back to that. Actually, I think that would be cool if you could kind of talk us through that project. So, Melissa, what do you got going on in your world?
Yeah. So for me, let's see, business is going well. We're closing a deal tomorrow that I'm really excited about. It's one that we've kind of been working on for a little bit. So that's going to be a good payday. That was a nice, quick one of the cash over asking, no contingencies kind of deal. Yeah, we're going to clear about 100K on that deal. So I say that's a win. That's a big win. I needed a big win. I needed a big win. So that's good.
You need a big win to offset the ass kicking sometimes.
My ass has been kicked so badly. I swear. My roof leaked the other day. We had a rainstorm. It was just like, okay, what else? My kids have the stomach bug. You know, Sophie's laid up in her room right now, puking her guts out. So I'm dealing with that. But it's funny, like my frame of mind has been so much better. Like despite all those things, it's just like, okay, there's like another thing that happened. But you know, I'm going to just stay focused and keep doing what I'm doing. And I have been feeling really good about where things are going. I booked 31 podcast interviews for May. So that is insane, but I have been loving it. I started the podcast last year and I did a little bit. I think I had all you guys on. Stephanie Betters, I'm looking at you because
we had one.
Something happened, but we need to like circle back to that. But it's just been awesome. Like the women that I've talked to, the response for people that want to be interviewed, and then like the quality of women and the things they're doing, I swear, I feel like that has contributed a ton to just my mindset being better. Cause I feel like so excited. I have not had one person that I've interviewed that I have not totally enjoyed or learned something from. It's just been really fun. I'm like, maybe if I could podcast all day, I might be okay with doing just that. If I could find some way to monetize that. Yeah, but that's going well. And then like everything's good with the kids. My son's finally out of his boot from his soccer injury. So now we're back to soccer and hockey and all that fun stuff. So everything's good. My birthday is on Saturday. So looking forward to that.
So, birthday and Mother's Day, like bang, bang.
I know, and every few years it actually falls on Mother's Day and I feel a little gypped, but it's okay.
Double surprise. Awesome. Well, Liz, welcome back.
Yes.
We're super excited to have you. Maybe tell our audience, reintroduce yourself a little bit, and then tell us what's going on in your world.
Sure. So my name's Liz. I whether all the hats I wear, things like that. But I think I want to introduce myself as a lifelong learner, and it's somebody who just likes growing and learning. Beyond that, I am a mother. I'm a wife. My husband and I started investing about 15 years ago, and have been kind of investing in different classes, and we focus mostly on multifamily now. I love real estate, but I really love what I'm doing over at the real estate investor community and just supporting women, which I know all of us, all four of us in Peely have a shared passion on. So we have the podcast and we're doing lots of things. We've got a summit coming up. We have meetups. Melissa is one of our extraordinary meetup leaders. And we're just trying to take the world on to help give women space to give and get the support they need. Just take it on, But we want to have a meetup in every part of the world, in the globe. That's our goal. So so women can get what they need and give what they need. So I'm very pumped about that. I feel very
Wait, Liz,
passionate.
pause there 1 second. Do you have a way that if people who are watching this are interested in potentially leading one of the investor meetups in their area, how should they reach out to you?
Sure. Our website's the best place, the real estate investor, HER.com.
Cool. Awesome.
So, we're growing, we're growing that. And I've also taken on, in terms of our personal kind of goals and investments, we've invested a lot with other people. That's how we grew our business, me and my husband. And I love that, because we're building our wealth. We're helping other people build their wealth, right? It's the beauty of it. But we're also thinking, okay, strategically, we're selling some assets this year. So, how do we deploy money into our own deals or with other people and creating? So it's neat. I'm kind of taking on that piece of it, where I'm, considering, do we just do some projects and operate them, or do we partner with operators? And it just really coming to terms with some things and saying, okay, I really want to passively invest now, not now, but I really, want to take some cash and maybe not take as much risk. Right. And so I'm an interesting space of, like, when we started, we were less, we were just risk takers, and we just got involved in things that, I scratched my head on, like, what were we thinking? But, you get a little older, a little like more seasoned a little bit. And you say, well, I want to mitigate my risk now, so it's interesting. I'm looking at some, like, vacation rentals, but then I'm like, I don't like decorating, to be honest. I don't want to do that. Like, there's certain things, like, it's not my thing. I think going into homes that are beautiful are awesome, but it's not my thing. So I'm really coming to terms and, like, okay, what does that look like? Maybe I just do some private loans to, people we trust and things. So it's cool. I feel like I'm on a journey, like all of us, right? And just kind of growing and helping and learning. And I have 2 little kiddos that keep me busy, and I try to create a balance. I'm home with my daughter 2 days a week. So, I really work hard at not looking at my phone, because there's a lot of stuff going on that I could be looking at. But I'm like, no, we're just going to play with Hello Pony. That's what we're doing, What are their names? There's some really weird names too. But so anyway, so that's the long and short of it. Ramble on,
But before we started today, you were asking, kind of what we wanted to talk about today. Our pillars are motherhood, money, marriage, and mental health. And I thought it'd be cool. This idea that's been rolling around my head a lot, that's come up in conversations, is this: you overestimate what you can accomplish in a year, and you underestimate what you can accomplish in a decade. And I wanted to talk about that really from kind of the financial standpoint and your real estate investing career. Because you posted something really great yesterday. Like, people ask about our longevity in this, and you said, never give up. That's it. So how long have you been doing this?
15 years. We bought our first property.
Okay. So, and other ladies, chime in if you have questions for Liz, but I guess I'd be interested, if looking back at the past 15 years and this deal that you currently have, which I'd love to hear more details on, like, tell us about that journey and kind of where you thought you were going to go on this journey and where you actually went on the journey.
It's funny, because I think so many times when people get into real estate, right, they think, I'm going to make all this cash flow, and it's going to happen over, I'm going to get, 1,000 units in 2 years and make $20,000 in monthly income. Boom, that's my goal, and you get really excited. And I don't mean to dismiss that, but I had those things written down, me and my husband, and we're like, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. Let's go. But, like, I think back, I'm like, we were in our 20s. We were naive. We had no experience, in business. We had no experience in real estate. And we're both really trusting people who like people. And that's not a bad thing. But in this business, you can get beat up a little bit and taken advantage of a little bit. So, I think I think the long and short of it, too, that I think about is, like, it's a journey. You're never anywhere. There's no destination. And I keep learning and growing. But I think for the last many years, there were, like, these pivotal times that we could have given up. Like, my husband saying to me, right when the market crashed in 2008. And that was a hard time. We had, like, rentals that really weren't feeding us. We were doing flips that we now had to convert to rentals because we couldn't flip them. We couldn't talk about the market now, right? That wasn't happening in 2008 when the market crashed. It was so hard to even sell a home. And we were in an area that people didn't want to live, which crazy thought, didn't really think about at the time. But anyway, learn a lot over the years. And I know you know, Melissa, all the flips you've done. But so what we learned was pivotal moments, him saying, like, if we don't change something, we're going to get a divorce. Me having to go back to my job because there was no other way to make things work, right? We weren't making enough money to even sustain our household. So there was like moments that like were really tough. We got money stolen from us, like close to $1 million.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
Reading
Not
that
just our own money, but our investors' money.
Matt's book.
And this wasn't that long ago. So there's so many pieces. And I think, but we've had some really good successes, right? And then you start to do something and you build upon it and you build upon it. So I think so many times people look at others and say, wow, they're doing this or they're doing that. God, it must have been so easy, or it must have taken a couple of weeks. And you know, people have different paths. I know for us, you know, we were able to build a portfolio, but that took a long time with a lot of twists and turns and a lot of learning lessons along the way. And that was the one thing that I think has helped us so much, and our faith, quite honestly, and just like belief in something bigger than me and him, you know, it's just, but certainly that idea of never giving up, in learning from what you didn't do well and taking accountability, because it's really easy to blame people. It's so easy to blame the contractor and the this and the that. I mean, like that money getting stolen, you think about that, right? Any money getting stolen from anyone. And
you silly people.
You could look at that. This was like a mini Bernie Madoff. Literally took $750,000 from us and from a group of investors, and which we had some of, but you know, it was a group of people.
Yeah,
and
can you tell that story?
Sure, it's a great story. It's what it is. It's a great story.
Let's talk about the mental health part of this journey.
Yeah, right. You know, this was a few years ago. We were about to make our largest purchase to date. So we kind of scaled in multifamily. So we went very incremental, right? You do like a duplex, a fourplex, a 10 unit, an 18 unit. Like literally some people go from 0 to this. We just did it like this, very, very incrementally. And so this is a 220 unit in North Carolina. It was our first project like that was not 2 hours away from our home. And it was our first project that was in that size, you know, of kind of class of size. We had before that done a 50 unit. So we went from 50 units to 200. We felt ready. We were building a team. It was in our space of multifamily. We didn't feel like it was a big stretch. So we sold the 18 unit. And that did well. It was in Philadelphia. And that money, because you ask your investors, you're in a syndication, we can either return capital to you or we can do a 1031 exchange into the new project. Obviously, the project needed more than that money. It needed a lot more than that, but that was a big contribution. Everyone said, great returns. Let's keep moving the money. And that's the thing. You start building relationships. They don't want their money back. They want to keep making money, right? That's the goal for a lot of people. So about 3 weeks prior to closing, we had my husband our attorney kept asking the 1031 exchange custodian, because that's how these things work. For those who aren't familiar, not to get too technical, in a very simple way, 1031 is going to allow you to take those profits and roll them into a new project and not pay taxes, right, on that gain, if you will, until you sell. So that has to go to a custodian. It's not a bank. It's literally it's called a 1031 exchange custodian. There's people out there doing these types of things. We thought it was a pretty standard thing. So we found somebody, had a lot of clients, what have you. The money got wired to him and his company. And about 2 weeks before closing, it was like actually 2 weeks, we kept emailing, hey, what's going on? And we really would like to see the money get wired because we're getting down to the wire. You go down to closing and you're raising money. It's a crazy town, right? Trying to pull a lot of things together. No response, right? And Matt kept reaching out because he was this point person, reaching out, nothing. Our attorney started reaching out, nothing. And we knew the gentleman's name, and we started to do some research on BiggerPockets under the forums. And we just literally put his company name in, and literally like a thread of about 100 responses came out about how this guy scammed them. And like our hearts just like sunk, like literally that moment of like, holy shit, this isn't good. So literally And so I remember where I was sitting when I read the thread. That's how, when something emotional happens like that, you remember exactly where you are, almost like what you were wearing. We were in our older house, and I was sitting in my office and I was reading this like in disbelief. So long story short, the person pretty much, embezzled like $12 million of people's money, all through 1031 exchanges, and bought all these assets with the money. And then tried to kill himself. And this is a whole very interesting, should be on some sort of TV show at some point. But anyway, he was alive. He's still alive. He's in a lot of trouble.
Like the next Tiger King.
I know, Jesus, I know. And so it was really, so we had a big problem. Now we didn't officially, we were literally getting this news of okay, so we're short 700. We were short 750,000. We were actually short about $500,000 because some of that money was for construction. So technically you didn't need it right at closing, right? You have money that you're putting aside for, major construction because you're doing that kind of size project. So we were short about $500,000, and we were 10 days, 2 weeks from closing. So we're like, shit, this isn't we've been working hard to raise money and we had everyone lined up. So we knew we had to get to closing, right? So we knew we had to get to closing, because if we didn't get to closing, these people's money was lost. Done. And we've lost the deal, because the deal, now these other people that have nothing to do with this are invested. And it's so anyway, long story short, we did find a loan, short-term loan from, people in our network, which is so helpful to build relationships with people who can move quickly, and they would feel comfortable enough doing that, So we got to closing, and then we had to make that money up. Obviously, now you're short that money for the project. Biggest problem is that all these people now have lost their money. So we had one of two things we could do. We could say, we're sorry, this is, we didn't steal the money, but hopefully we'll get some money back. That was one thing we could have done. And the other thing was to make them whole by giving up our equity in the deal to make them whole. I don't know, sharing this is making me emotional again. Wow. I haven't given this detail of this in a really long time, so now I'm getting emotional. That's great. But anyway,
I'm like, here for. We have all gotten emotional.
Pulling the mood, But anyway, so long story short, we did give up our equity to make these people whole, which is very hard because you work very hard,
Yeah.
But that's the right thing to do. So long story short, the good news is that we've gotten back about half of that, and that's been returned to investors, which is great. We're selling that very building that we've literally really turned around in 3 years. And it's going to be, we bought it for $35,000 a door. We're selling it for $70,000 a door. So it's going to make a lot of money for the investors, which is beautiful. And we're going to be able to pay the investors that, the money got taken, and we're going to give them a very nice return and out of our pockets. It's out of the GP's pockets. But I talked to my husband. I'm like, it's just, you're doing the right thing. I don't know how else to say it. You want to live with yourself and feel these people trusted us. We lost their money. We didn't steal it, but we did. So you feel responsible, and you want to take good care of people. And even if that means less money for you. So that's the story. Sorry, I got emotional. I really have not told that in a long time in terms of the details. So I think when I tell it, it just brings that back.
Feel it.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. I want to ask follow-up questions, but Stephanie looked like maybe she had one. No. She froze again. Okay, good. How many years ago was this? 3 years, you said?
Yeah, about 3 years ago, right before Christmas.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just
ask 20 questions.
That timing is so bad right before Christmas. But I was just thinking of, when you were saying doing the right thing, and I was talking to somebody on a podcast about this just the other day about doing the right thing, and that sometimes, I have that sign in my office still, do what's right, not what's easy, because that was, I'm sure, not an easy thing to do, but you did the right thing, and that always comes back. I think the proof is there for you. I mean, you're always so successful.
It's the other thing too, is when I was talking about it yesterday on our podcast, and I said, when you have experience in this business, it's easy to reconcile why we make mistakes early on. We don't know, we've never done this before. It's it just makes sense. Mm-hmm. But then you start to say, this didn't happen when we were early on. This happened a few years ago. And so it makes you think about okay, what did I own in that process? Like, what did we own in that, and what happened? And sometimes I think when we do get experience, we move quickly. We cut some corners. We don't do the due diligence that was maybe needed on this person, and you just become trusting. Like, I didn't even know that 1031 exchange custodians were not created equal. It's actually like the wild, wild west. It's not like banks. I didn't know that. We didn't know that. I wasn't familiar with that. They get a certificate and then you call yourself a custodian, and you could pretty much, people go wire you like tens of thousands, millions of dollars. I didn't know it was so unregulated.
I was going to ask you that. Is there no regulation for that kind of thing at all? Like, who's over that?
It's not like the banking industry kind of overseeing it, which would kind of make sense, or something like that. There is an institution that has a bunch of these 1031 exchange custodians inside of it. I don't know if this guy was part of that. Probably not, clearly. Or maybe he was and just, was just what have you, but I don't know. Because he's been doing it for a long time. This wasn't a new custodian. This is a person who had like literally millions of dollars under control, or whatever they say. But it made me think about moving quickly and how important that is, not to move so quickly, even if you have experience in a part of a business that, it just kind of go back to the fundamentals. And I think it reminded me of that, even just sharing that yesterday with someone. And I'm like, I got to think about that. And remember, you can't cut corners. And not that a corner was cut, but we're moving quickly, right? You're getting to closing. You didn't interview 10 custodians. We probably interviewed a few. Matt, my husband, took the lead on that. And here's the thing. Always go to your people who you trust and like for recommendations. I tend to be more of a trusting person. So someone, I might just find someone and I like them because I like them and I like most people. Quite honestly,
just like people.
Yeah, just like people. I mean, that's a good thing and a bad thing sometimes. So I think if you are that kind of person, I think you need to go to like your accountant or your attorney, which we had, and they would have recommended someone. It could have been that simple, but we didn't do that. We just kind of said, oh, we could do this. We could just find someone. What's the big deal? And then you move quickly. So I don't know. I also keep in mind, like, how do you just keep bringing it back to yourself? Because if the power goes to the guy who stole the money, then I can't grow from it. Then it just became, he was a bad guy and a criminal, and all those things are true. I didn't steal the money, but you still have to own parts of things when they don't go wrong, when they don't go right,
I actually, Matt presented, with Chad at one of our meetups, and he was telling the story, and it was right around the same time I went through something similar where I lost a bunch of private investors' money, not through, like, I didn't steal it, but it happened. And I was going through the same thing of making them whole. So I remember that I've been through kind of everything that you've probably felt there. And what I found, when I look at my life, and I'm curious if it's the same for you guys, when I look at all the things that my husband and I have built together, even though it was a significant amount of money, it won't really massively impact our long-term financial success. It'll set us back a couple of years, but it's not like debilitating. But the hardest part for me, to your point, was like the blow to my ego, right? Like, I take so much pride in being responsible. I don't know. Do you feel like that was it financially more impactful, or was it more of the ego side of things?
Yeah, I think both. But yes, certainly, like, you have to go back to your investors who trusted you, or trust you, and say, this happened under my watch, and it still happened under your watch. I mean, you're the general partner. You are in charge of running that project from beginning to end. It's not their responsibility. Yeah, I mean, and also kind of, I think the other part of it too is that, like, I was talking with someone and they're like, I'm going to lose this amount of money. And I'm like, good. And they're like, what do you mean good? And I said it kind of like jokingly. I said, it's going to it's going to make you not lose that money again. But it also, quite honestly, you're going to lose money in this business. And sooner you lose it, the better, because then you can get over that and then move on to the next thing. And here I'm the most frugal person. I don't like losing $5, let alone, I really am very cheap. So I think it's just like, you start to move to that. Like, all right, we went through that. What can happen that doesn't go well? That was probably the worst thing in business that's ever happened to us, hands down. We've gotten sued. No, that wasn't that big of a deal. Like, I mean, I can go through all the other things that we've been through. That was the toughest by far.
I think it's important too to just note also for everybody that's listening that no matter how long you've been doing this, like you've got 15 years, I've got 18 years. I know you, Becca and Stephanie, you guys have a lot of time in here too. And like, no matter how experienced you are, you still make mistakes from time to time, you know, and it is just like one little thing like that, like not checking, you know, who that custodian was, or like that crap deal that I did last year. Like I totally lost my butt on that deal, you know, and it was my fault. I didn't do the full due diligence that we would normally do, but you know, it was a mistake that I made, and it was like a nice little reminder almost too, because when you're doing it for so long, I think it's like, yeah, I got this down, and you're kind of complacent. And then like, it's almost like you need that slap across the face sometimes just to keep you sharp, you know, if that makes sense. Like it's a painful thing. It's not like fun at all, but it's a good reminder, like, hey, you need to always be on alert. You need to always be, you know, checking everything, and don't get complacent.
Yep. For me, it was like one of the major contributing factors for me was it was a single family. It was a 60th house I had renovated, and a septic system issue that I should have gotten a perk test. I knew it was a failed septic system. Should have gotten a perk test before I bought the house, and I didn't. And then it wouldn't perk. So I couldn't put in any sort of sewage treatment for the house. Right. And like crushing. So, but you know, Liz, to your point, probably the scariest thing getting into real estate for me would be the idea that I would lose somebody else's money. And I did it. And I'm in the process of making them whole too. And once I got past that, I was like, all right, well, the worst thing has happened. Now let's go. Right. Like if we can survive this, we can survive anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah. And it makes you really like not value. It's not like you're attached to money, because it's like, that's a whole other topic, right? Because you don't want to ever lose money, but you also become, okay, this could be replaced. It's replaceable. And how are we going to do that? And what's the creativity here? Thank God we got to closing. We had a property that we can give away. We had something of value, whether we make, you know, that's in the difference. Like, but I'm so grateful for that. That could have happened very differently, where the money could have gotten stolen, and the guy didn't go buy assets. He could have just, who knows? He bought a bunch of assets that are getting sold off, literally. You know.
So will you get some money back?
Yeah. So half of the funds went back to the investors. We had about maybe like 10% of that 18 unit probably was our ownership, or 50, something in that ballpark. So when this property sells, this 200 unit, we will get you know, a portion of that money, and then, but all the investors will do well too. So it's going to be a win-win all around, which is, again, thank God the project did well. You know, if that project we were selling didn't make any money, then we got to go find that money somewhere else. That could have happened too. So there's all different. I mean, I feel very grateful, you know, that the project actually turned around so well, and it ended up becoming such a great project for us, because that building was 40% occupied when we bought it.
The 220.
Yeah. So do those numbers to think about how well that was doing financially. Not doing well.
What happened to the guy? I'm curious to know what happened. Did he go to prison or something?
He's not,
like,
you know, I don't know if he's in prison, but his, it's really crazy. And we actually spoke to, I think he's alive, and he was in the hospital because he literally tried to blow up his car. You know, and I remember Matt and I talking about this. I'm like, thank God my husband's trying to figure out how to like make these people whole. This is what our conversations are over dinner, right? I mean, we're really sad, and this is a big thing that happened. I couldn't imagine being his wife. Like, that's tough, right? Now that's my husband. That's my husband who just literally embezzled like millions of dollars. I don't mean to be laughing, but that's tough to reconcile. Yeah. So, again, all gratitude, but he is alive, and I think he's cooperating with with the officials, FBI. They did like a class action suit, because there's a lot of people involved who money was stolen. You know, $12 million. It wasn't like, I think the largest amount was $1 million. And then it was a bunch of other small, like 100,000, 200,000, and then up to, $1 million. So there's probably at least 30 people affected, 30 companies affected. Yeah. So but they're cooperating, and I think that will reduce his sentence. I don't know if he's in jail. I don't know that.
Wow.
It's, to your point of never give up. You guys, Stephanie, you want to say something?
No, I was just about to say that. Like, thank God he didn't give up.
Yeah, no.
But like, I bet there had to have been one moment where you found out the money was stolen, and did you ever think we should just throw in the towel right now?
Yeah.
Like, was there that brief? Can you talk through that time?
Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of times, to be honest with you, that you know, a flip doesn't go right, or you know, you partner with someone that it just doesn't work out, and you just question, like, what, you know, are we on the right path, you know, and all those questions. When that happened, we were beholden. We were responsible. We felt so responsible for taking care of all these people. There was no other, like, it wasn't even like we thought about, like, oh, this is really tough, but we knew we need to take care of this, make this right. So that moves you through the experience in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
But in times of just him and I, it's like, should we, you know, things happen, and you just have to mentally go through. You have to mentally go through, like, you question it. Am I good at this? Should we keep doing this? You question yourself, and that's very normal. Especially as women, right? I mean, shit, I question myself every day. I screamed at my daughter this morning, and I'm like, I'm a horrible mother. You know, I'm a little stressed. My husband's traveling. I'm like trying to get on a phone call, and she's like putting things up her nose, and I'm like, you got to get to school, and you know, just motherhood. And I'm like, I'm a horrible mother. And I'm like, all right, don't judge myself. It's okay. So it's like those mental barriers you have to keep working through, and just say, I'm going to make it better next time. What am I going to do differently? I also think having the long game in mind helps. We didn't want to, like, we didn't start this, or any, you know, for me, I didn't start investing so it was like one and done, or it was like this quick, rich scheme or anything like that. I wanted to add a lot of value to my family, obviously, and build wealth. And I wanted to help a lot of people. That's always, and my husband too, that's always been our theme when we literally had nothing and we were young and clueless. And that still remains the same. So I think having that long game of, like, because the person that's not in it for the long game is going to take care of themselves. And a lot of people do. I don't find a lot of women do that, to be honest. That's why I love working with women and building a women's community, selfishly. Yeah. But I find there are people who just take care of the short end, because it's like they're playing the short game, and that's not success in life, you know, I don't find. So I think you have that long-term vision, and you know, you try to keep that in mind.
That's probably the most pivotal thing, because, you know, I look at Melissa and Stephanie, myself, you, like, I think we've all gone through chapters on our journey, right? Like, from you, small family investing, to your small units. I'm not saying the right words.
Gotcha.
to larger units, to now, you know, the GP, the LP, you're like moving through the phases of your journey. But the guiding light is always this kind of, you know, the long game plan from every phase. I mean, for me, like, rehabbing into wholesaling, into marketing consulting, to membership development, to now I really want to buy an RV park.
I love it.
Like, it's always the same theme of, what's the long game here? Mm-hmm. What are we working towards? So
honestly, I think that if the long game entails failure, period. Like, you are going to have failure in the long game. And you will only have long game if you can get over it. Somehow figure it out. You know what I mean? And I think it's really hard to accept that, like, no matter how hard you try, like, you will mess it up somewhere. You're going to mess it up. You're going to hurt people by accident, right? Like, and like, no matter how much you don't want to, like, you're going to have your day. You know what I mean? And hopefully we can mitigate that as much as we can. But I think accepting that long game entails failure makes it a little bit more palatable, you know, and maybe a little bit more normal, right? And then we can reach out to each other and be like, okay, what do I do now? Like, I just messed up, you know, and or something I did not predict that was going to happen. Now what do I do? You know,
Love that.
I love talking about it. I'm so glad that you were so vulnerable about that, and just talked through that journey, because it enables everybody else to fail forward too, you know, and not be crushed by it and not stop. You know, I think that's the key. You just can't stop. You'll figure it out. Everything is figure outable, right? We'll get it. We'll do what we can, but like, we got to keep on moving.
Yeah, and not giving up when you smash into that wall, right? When you lose that money, or the septic doesn't work, or Melissa, when you buy the wrong house, right? You're like, all right, man.
Floodplain, man, the floodplain. Check the floodplains, people.
Check the floodplain.
Can't stress it enough.
There's
But
no
it's
way
like
you know all this going into it, though.
No. And, you know, one of the things, like, I tell my kids this all the time, especially my son, because he's like so quick to just, you know, whatever with stuff. He wants to do all the things, but, you know, be a problem solver. That's what I always tell my kids. Be a problem solver. You know, yeah, you're crying. Like yesterday, this is like so not related to real estate, but like he kicked his soccer ball over the fence next door, and he was upset because he had soccer practice last night and the neighbor wasn't home. So we went and rang the doorbell. He wasn't home. And he's got 2 dogs in the backyard. So he couldn't like creep back there and so he's just like bawling his eyes out. And I was like, be a problem solver. And so we went and got a ladder and the pool net and like got the ball. So like extended the pool net really far and got the ball for him. But, you know, doing like showing them too, you know, we solved the problem. Now you have your ball. Now don't kick the damn ball over the fence again. Like stop doing that. It's almost every day. But be a problem solver. And it's the same thing with real estate. When we come up on those things, you know, we can sit there and be, you know, bemoan about it, I guess, you know, which we've all done. And then, you know, okay, how do we solve the problem and break it down?
Yeah. Oh, you're muted, Bianca.
Oh, Becca, you're muted.
All right. Well, it's good because you didn't hear that expletive that just came out of my mouth. I'm sure you saw it though. I want to put a point in the fact, and Liz, I'm definitely making a big assumption here, but that even though you suffered a pretty massive setback, do you think that in 10 years that you will still be financially so much more successful than your peers from when you were 20?
Yeah, I mean, you mean in terms of like when I started when I was in my 20s? And
yeah, like the normal path, right? If you had continued on the normal path.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so grateful for the path we took. And that was something that him and I always were very aligned with. We started like writing a business plan on like our first few dates. It was like such dorks. Like most people are like in their 20s going out, you know, and we were like, what business could we start together? You know, it's just dorks. But we go to like RIA meetings and
that's the most adorable thing I've ever heard.
Was that? I know. We were just we shared that in common. And that I think the values there in terms of just like, how do we create something and do something that helps people and helps our family? So yeah, I'm grateful for it. I really want to keep exposing my kids to what they don't see, some of that early stuff. Like they don't see some of the apartment complexes in Kentucky because we don't live there. But I'm like, Nat, we really got like when we were like so hands-on, it's different, right? You know, you're hands-on a different way, and they see me on podcasts. They don't see me actually, you know, so it's interesting. Yeah. I'm like just thinking creatively with my kids. I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. So I'm really, really mindful of like, you know, what am I teaching my daughter, you know, and obviously and my son, of course. And we play cash flow for kids, and I'm going to encourage him he wants to make money. So I'm encouraging him to do like a dog stand, and just, you know, I just got to be really mindful of that because I feel like it could be so removed for because we're just, you know, some of our stuff isn't local, that I'm like, I want them to see it and feel it in it, you know? So anyway, that was not what you asked, but just made me think of that. Sorry.
I guess I wanted to inspire the people who are just starting out to know that, like, even if you suffer that massive failure, to Stephanie's point, you know, like I know she's run into some issues with scaling her business. And like, even if you run into that the end result is actually still success. Like it's worth the journey if you do it right.
I think the only way to do it right is you have to look at yourself in the mirror. Like just, there's no, my opinion, it's just me. There's no shortcutting, like taking accountability. And like, I've had to grow our relationship, our communication, my way of being. I mean, I'm in coaching so I can get help on all my stuff that I need to work through and what I make meaning of. And I've done weekends, and, you know, I think all that's necessary. Therapy, all of it is necessary to be effective in business and effective in creating something special, because it's, you know, it's really easy to like look good, but people don't want people who look good. They want people who are real and down to earth, and they're going to share their stuff so they can say, this is what happened. This is how I moved through it, you know? So if you are starting out, it's like, you have to look yourself in the mirror. I think that there's no way around that, you know, being honest with yourself and real. So
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, we are wrapping it up now. We're at our 45-minute point. So I think, Liz, just to kind of take us out, what is the one thing, like piece of advice that you want to give to people if they're in that point right now where they're thinking of giving up?
ask yourself who, not how. And I think we try to, especially as women, we try to figure out the how versus who do we know, who likes and trusts us and appreciates us that we can get some help from, and reaching out and not trying to figure it out all yourself. So I know we didn't talk a lot about that, but I think that would have helped me earlier on to learn that because I didn't do that enough. So there's a great book, I got to read it, but it's called Who, Not How. And I think that's my theme this year. Who, not how. Quite honestly, everything we're dealing with, like who, not how, who, not how. Because I'm always like, what can I do to let me do the research? No, I don't want to do the research on that. Let me see who I know who might be able to help me, possibly. So I hope that helps.
Any other last thoughts, ladies, for people who might be, from your perspective, Stephanie, Melissa, people who might be thinking of giving up? What's your advice?
I would say look at who you're surrounding yourself with too. You know, that makes a huge difference. Like if I hadn't had all you ladies to support me through the last couple of years and all the stuff, like it could look a lot differently for me right now, I think. So I think who you surround yourself with and take advice from and things like that make a big difference too. Because when you're at that point where I just want to give up, you need a cheerleader in your corner. You need somebody that's going to encourage you and uplift you and remind you how badass you are, because we forget sometimes. We forget all the things that we've done and that we're capable of. And we need those reminders from somebody else. We should be telling ourselves that too. Yes, 100%. But, having those people in your corner, I think really makes a big difference. I'm grateful.
We lost Stephanie too. That's awesome, Melissa. Man, you guys are just full of gold bombs. Mine is, I'm just going to parrot back what Liz said. Like, if you're in a spot right now where you're thinking of giving up, like stop looking at this as the short game and look at this as the long game. What are you trying to accomplish in the next 5 years, not the next one? And just hold firm to that and keep taking steps towards it. Stephanie, you came back. Whew. I was afraid we were going to miss out on your wisdom. Take us out here. Last piece of wisdom for people who might be thinking about giving up.
I think the long game and looking at it in that perspective also allows you to accumulate good experience and perspective over time, right? So now, like the things that are really big or a big devastating blow in the beginning, as things move on too, they're put into perspective. Like you said, like, well, that was the worst thing that could happen, right? So what can happen from here, right? And then looking back, you're like, you know what? That really wasn't that big a deal. And it just helps put things in perspective when you look at that long game. So I love that. I think that's such great advice. And it prepares you really for the path ahead and to not stop, so I love it. I love it. I really relate and feel very impacted by what you talked about.
Yeah. Liz, thank you so much for sharing your story. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate all of you and appreciate the opportunity to have like a little, I love the format, I feel like we're having coffee together. I don't have any coffee. I need to get some coffee, but I'm drinking just water right now. I want like a cup of coffee. I feel like we're having a chat over coffee or a glass of wine. Wine would probably be preferred definitely over the coffee, but I appreciate being on. I hope I was helpful, and I hope, I hope to see you all soon, and appreciate all of you. Yeah.
And for anybody who watched this and wants to be part of the INVESTHER community, reach out, join the Facebook group. Peely, no, is not on here. Melissa, did you do that?
I
dropped it in the comments. The realestateinvestor.com. It's an awesome group. So, all right, ladies, until next time.
It's so good to see you guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.